The city of forgotten promises. The city never slept. Even at midnight, the skyline of New York shimmered like 1,000 diamonds scattered across velvet. Hey my beautiful family, welcome to A Story a Day. I bring you powerful and deeply loving stories. Subscribe please. And where at that glittering chaos, Ethan Steele, one of the youngest billionaires in the world, stood in front of his glass window, a half-empty glass of scotch at his hand, and a silence heavier than all his wealth pressing on his chest. His reflection looked back at him, tall, elegant, powerful, and lonely. Every success he'd ever dreamed of was his. Every business magazine had crowned him the iron genius. But the one thing he could never reclaim was her. Her name still lived like a whisper in his heart, Amara Blake. The woman with eyes that could silence storms, skin like rich mahogany silk, and a smile that made his world feel alive. It had been 5 years since she walked away. 5 years since his promises shattered like glass beneath his own ambition. 5 years earlier, Ethan and Amara had met in the most unexpected way. Inside a small art gallery tucked between the rush of Brooklyn. She wasn't anyone famous, not a woman dressed in designer labels or trying to impress anyone. She was simply herself, wearing a yellow dress that made her glow against the dim lights, staring at a painting that looked like chaos, but she saw meaning in it. When he approached her, curious about her thoughts, she'd said something that never left him. Even chaos can be beautiful if you don't try to control it. That line became his undoing. Amara was everything he wasn't: free, kind, grounded. She worked as an art teacher at a local school, loved jazz, and believed in small miracles. Ethan, on the other hand, believed in deals, deadlines, and destiny made by power. And yet, love found them, raw and deep. They spent 2 years together, their worlds colliding in a love so passionate it frightened them both. But the higher Ethan climbed, the further he drifted. Amara didn't want his money. She wanted him. But every time his phone rang, every late night flight, every lie that it's just business, chipped away at what they built. The last fight was the worst. It was raining that night. Amara had waited for him at a small restaurant for over an hour. When he finally arrived, in a sharp black suit, smelling of success and whiskey, her tears had already dried. "You promised me, Ethan," she whispered, standing beneath the streetlight as cars hissed past in the rain. "You promised I'd never feel alone in your world, greater than Amara. I'm doing this for us, for our future." "No, Ethan," she said softly, shaking her head. "You're doing this for yourself. You already had our future. You just couldn't see it." And then, she walked away. He didn't chase her, because that night, he told himself she'd come back, like she always did. But she didn't. Present day, Ethan.
Phone buzzed, breaking the silence of his penthouse. It was Michael, his assistant. "Sir, the investors are waiting. Should I tell them cancel it?" Ethan said quietly. "Sir, just cancel everything tonight." He set the phone down. He couldn't focus. Not tonight. Because earlier that day, in a charity event photograph online among hundreds of faces he saw her, Amara Blake. She looked even more beautiful than he remembered. Her hair was longer now, her smile softer, but tired, like someone who had learned to carry her own storms. Beside her stood a little girl, around 4 years old, holding Amara's hand. The caption under the picture read, "Amara Blake, founder of the Light Within Foundation, dedicated to helping children in art and emotional healing." Ethan's hand trembled. Her name, her face, and that little girl, those eyes. Could it be? He sank onto the couch, heart pounding. Memories of her laughter filled the emptiness around him. The next morning, Jethan's black car rolled into a small neighborhood in Brooklyn. No security, no luxury, just quiet streets and murals painted on the walls. He stepped out, wearing a simple coat, trying not to draw attention. The sign on the building read, "Light Within Foundation by Amara Blake." Through the glass doors, he saw children painting splashes of color and hope. And then he saw her. Amara was kneeling beside a little girl, showing her how to mix colors. That child, the same one from the photograph, looked up and smiled. Ethan froze. Her curls bounced as she laughed. And her eyes, those familiar storm gray eyes. His eyes. He couldn't breathe. Amara looked up. Then, their eyes met. For a moment, time stopped. Her face went pale. The brush slipped from her hand. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Ethan stepped forward, his voice barely a whisper. Amara, she stood, her fingers trembling slightly. What are you doing here, Ethan? He didn't know how to answer. 5 years of silence collapsed between them like a wave. I saw your photo, he said finally. I had to see you. Her eyes flickered, hurt, disbelief, and something else she quickly buried. You shouldn't have come. I had to, he insisted. You disappeared. You let me go, Ethan. She cut him off softly. Don't rewrite the story. He looked at the little girl, who was now watching them curiously from her chair. Is she? He started, his voice trembling. Amara's expression hardened. She's my daughter, she said, with quiet strength. Our daughter? Amara's silence was answer enough. Ethan felt his heart drop. He took a shaky breath. Why didn't you tell me? You didn't have time to listen back then. And I wasn't going to raise a child waiting for a man who loved his empire more than his family. Her words cut deep, but they were true. Ethan looked at the child again. She had Amara's warmth, his eyes, and that same spark of life. He
swallowed hard. What's her name? Leela, Amara said quietly. It means night beauty. I named her after the night I decided to start over. Silence fell between them. Outside, the city hummed cars, people, life. But inside that small room, time was fragile. Can I see her again? Ethan asked softly. She deserves to know her father. Amara hesitated, torn between her heart and her pain. We'll see, she whispered finally. But Ethan, don't make promises you can't keep again. He nodded, eyes glistening. Not this time. I swear, not this time. As he turned to leave, Amara watched him from the window, the man she had once loved more than life itself. And for the first time in years, her heart trembled with something she had buried long ago: hope. The weight of promise. 4 days after seeing Amara and their daughter, Ethan couldn't focus on anything. The board meetings, the contracts, the stock numbers, all of it blurred into meaningless noise. The only image that stayed burned in his mind was Leela's smile, innocent, radiant, and heartbreakingly familiar. He had built an empire, yet somehow lost the only treasures that ever truly mattered. 1 week later, early morning light filtered into the office of Light Within Foundation. Amara sat at her desk, reviewing art supply invoices when a gentle knock came at the door. Come in, she said, not looking up. The door opened quietly. And then that voice. Soft, careful, familiar. You still drink your coffee with cinnamon? Her pen froze mid-line. Slowly, she lifted her eyes and there he was again. Ethan stood there, holding 2 cups, his expression uncertain but hopeful. He had no bodyguards, no tailored suit, just a man stripped down to sincerity. I remember everything, he added softly. Amara stared at the cups. The smell of cinnamon and roasted beans filled the air. For a moment, the years between them disappeared, and she saw flashes of the man she used to know, the man who would wake up early just to bring her coffee before work. Ethan, she began, voice trembling. You shouldn't, please, he interrupted gently. Just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Something in his tone made her pause. She nodded reluctantly, and he sat across from her. The apology. For a while, neither spoke. The hum of children's laughter from the next room filled the silence. Finally, Ethan took a deep breath. I spent years convincing myself I was doing the right thing, he said slowly. That building my empire would give us a perfect life. But when I lost you, I realized, what's the point of a kingdom if the queen is gone? Amara's eyes glistened, but she looked away. You can't fix the past with pretty words, Ethan. I'm not trying to fix it, he said firmly. I'm trying to earn a future. A future? She laughed bitterly. You think it's that simple? You left me to fight through pregnancy alone. You weren't there.
For her first word, her first step, her first day of school, her voice cracked and she pressed a hand to her chest. struggling to contain the pain. Do you know what it's like, she whispered, to watch your daughter ask where her father is, and not know what to say? Ethan lowered his gaze, shame washing over him. His throat tightened, words fighting to come out. I can't change that, he admitted, but I can be here now, for both of you. And what happens when the next deal calls your name? When the board needs you? When the world tempts you again? Ethan's eyes met her steady, raw. Then the world will wait, he said. Because for the first time, I understand what truly matters. A Shancheth door opened, and little Leela peeked in. Mommy, I'm done painting, she said cheerfully. Then her eyes landed on Ethan. You're the man from the other day. Ethan smiled nervously. That's right. I'm Ethan. She tilted her head curiously. You talk like mommy when she's mad and happy at the same time. Amara tried not to smile. Leela, sweetheart, go show your painting to Miss Jada. Okay, the little girl chirped, skipping out but not before turning back and saying, Bye, Mr. Ethan. When the door closed, Ethan whispered, She's perfect. Amara nodded, tears threatening. She's everything. For a long time, they sat in quiet understanding. Two people broken by time, but bound by something stronger than pride. Let me be in her life, Ethan said softly. Even if it's just as a friend at first. I'll take whatever you give me. Amara studied him, the sincerity, the tiredness, the ache in his eyes. You really mean that? With everything I have left, he said. The return of love weeks passed. Ethan started visiting the foundation often, quietly, helping with donations, fixing broken shelves, buying new art supplies for the kids. Never flaunting, never forcing. He read stories to the children, helped clean after sessions, and most importantly, learned to just be there. Leela grew fond of him quickly. They painted together, laughed together, and one day, she called him Papa Ethan. Amara heard it from across the room. Her heart twisted and melted all at once. That night, as they closed the foundation, Ethan stood by the doorway, hesitant. I don't want to overstep, he said softly, but hearing her call me that, she sees something in you. Amara interrupted gently. Something I used to see too.
He took a step closer. Do you still? Amara looked up, eyes shimmering with emotions she tried to hide. I don't know, Ethan. I'm scared. So am I, he whispered. But maybe that's how we start again, scared but together. The silence that followed was thick with truth. Then, slowly, Amara reached out, her fingers brushing his. For the first time in 5 years, she didn't pull away. The storm before the calm, just as life began to find balance again. Fate tested them once more. News broke across media. Billionaire Ethan Steele accused of fraud in major corporate scandal. It was false, a setup by his former partner trying to destroy him. But overnight, his name became poison again. Reporters swarmed the foundation, flashing cameras at Amara, shouting questions. She shielded Leela, her heart pounding. That night, Ethan came to her door, exhausted and broken. I'll fix this, he said. I swear you don't have to fix it, Amara cut in. Just don't disappear. He looked at her stunned. You believe me. I know your heart, Ethan, she said softly. The man I loved would never hurt anyone. I see that man again. Tears welled in his eyes. He pulled her into his arms, trembling. I don't deserve you. Maybe not, she whispered, but you never stopped loving me. And that counts for something. 1 year later, the charges were cleared. Ethan's name restored. But by then, his priorities had changed completely. He stepped down from several boards, invested his time and money into Light Within, and turned it into a global movement supporting art therapy for children. One summer evening, under the fading gold of the sunset, Ethan stood in the same gallery where they first met, now rebuilt and owned by Amara. She stood beside him, elegant in a white dress, her hand in his. Leela was nearby, giggling as she painted a sunset of her own. Ethan turned to Amara. You once said chaos can be beautiful if you don't try to control it. I remember, she smiled. You were right, he whispered. I stopped fighting the chaos. I let it lead me back to you. He took a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside was a ring, simple, graceful, gold. No promises this time, he said softly. Just a choice every day, to love you and never leave again. Amara's eyes filled with tears. She nodded, whispering through a trembling smile. Then I choose you too. As the city lights flickered outside, Ethan kissed her gently, a kiss that healed years of pain, loss, and longing. And from the corner, Leela clapped her little hands, shouting, "Finally! Mommy's smiling again." They laughed, holding each other close as the night embraced them, not as broken lovers, but as a family reborn.